I'm Mary Gassler. My husband and I own property on the lake, and we've been here since 1993. First of all, I would also like to thank you for being here to listen to my opinion. I know some of you have driven a lot of miles, and you got some to drive here tonight, so thank you very much. As stewards of Wisconsin's lands and waters, I'm sure you must often find it a thankless job. Criticisms flow freely from every direction: industry, politicians, special interests, and the public in general. You are to be commended and thanked for your many successful efforts to keep our environment clean and accessible for our future generations. I appreciate the cherished Wisconsin Outdoor Fund, which was recently approved for restoration of the 1.5 million acres of publicly owned properties. In the past, you have battled those who would disregard the health and welfare of our lakes and streams when they would negligently or accidentally dump harmful waste, be they industry, business, farms, municipalities, all in the name of the public trust. However, tonight, we're talking about a publicly owned property which has not been protected on your watch. Dead Pike Lake is sick and perhaps dying. The scientific, unassailable proof of the damage done by the mismanagement of the Powell Marsh can be read in the $50,000 study by Bar Engineering. How it's possible that this extensive resource was not cited in any of the materials being distributed regarding Dead Pike Lake and the Powell Marsh ecosystem seems strange to me. I have one last question for you. What actions would be taken if it had been a paper mill or a corporate farm or other industry, rather than the Powell Marsh, dumping its pollutants into Dead Pike Lake?
I'm John Hanson. I'm the town chairman of Antiquated Waters, but I've been aware of the plight of the Dead Pike people for quite a while. My comments are going to be a little bit different, but some of them have been said already, but I'll get through this. Antiquated Waters is becoming recognized as a destination for vacationers and residents who enjoy the outdoors and participate in silent sports activities. We offer outstanding opportunities for hiking, biking, birding, kayaking, fishing, hunting, and just plain sitting and observing the surroundings in our environment. We're blessed to have lakes and streams that are designated as outstanding water resources and are above average in their animal and plant diversity. We have a rapidly expanding trail system that is second to none. Our resorts, businesses, the Discovery Center, and Camp Jordan offer recreational and educational opportunities for all ages. In addition, the town of Antiquated Waters has developed an excellent park system. We have Rest Lake Park, Kohler Park, the Community Center Athletic Park, and Playground. All of these parks are owned and managed by the town. In addition, we have leased Star Lake Park from the DNR and manage that facility as well. All of these facilities are what we are and have had a major positive economic impact on our town and the surrounding communities. I mention all of these things because I believe they are in stark contrast to what we have come here to discuss tonight. I'm speaking, of course, about the Powell Marsh and Dead Pike Lake. In the case of the marsh, there's no doubt in my mind, and this is my opinion, that the marsh has been used and abused by the DNR to try to manipulate it into something that it never was and never will be. In the case of Dead Pike Lake, it has become the unfortunate victim of all that manipulation. In both cases, I believe it has had a significant negative impact, economic impact on our town and the property owners of Dead Pike Lake. As for the economic impact the marsh has had, I think there are two aspects to it. First is the cost to the taxpayers of Wisconsin has been incurred over the last 60 years to create something that obviously has not worked. Apparently it's so embarrassing that the DNR stopped keeping a file on the marsh after 2000. We do know from an article that Larry Jonas, the marsh assistant, wrote in the Lakeland Times in 2002 that the dike's lifespan was estimated at 35 years. Today they are 58 years old. In 2004, a third of a mile of the dike was reinforced, so we were told, at a cost of $160,000. Projecting that out would mean the cost of repairing all 14 miles of the dikes could be as much as $7 million. Are there any benefits that can justify this kind of expenditure, and how would the DNR and the public know what the actual cost would be if there are no records being kept? I can't imagine how the DNR can legally operate like this. This is fiduciary irresponsibility. The second aspect is because the marsh has been mismanaged in the way it has been, the potential for it to be one of the most important assets for Manitowoc waters to be a destination has been tremendously underutilized. If one or more of the DNR's options are used in conjunction with the Dead Pike Lake Association's plans as a template for updating the current plan, I believe the potential for the utilization of this most important asset will be greatly enhanced and expanded. It has the potential to significantly expand the use of the marsh and thus have a positive impact on our economy. As for the residents who live in Dead Pike Lake, research done by Barn Associates has identified the high volume of iron being created in the marsh ditches, which is then flushed into Dead Pike Lake. I have observed the unsightly deposits of iron floc on the beaches and shorelines of the property of these residents. It can only affect the value of their properties negatively, with estimates being as much as 15 to 20%. This is a significant cost to all taxpayers that are being asked to absorb so the DNR can continue to mismanage this citizen-owned public resource. Finally, one other important resource the town of Manitowoc Waters has is the airport. This is one of two ways people arrive in town. We currently have over 40 private and town-owned hangar units. Our number one priority is to run a safe airport. One of the requirements we have is mandated, and that is to have a wildlife management plan. It's not unusual for planes to have to make a pass over the runways in order to chase off waterfowl before they land. Trying to make the Powell Marsh more attractive for waterfowl does not make our job any easier. Trying to encourage waterfowl to alter their migration routes to come to the Powell Marsh does not make the environment any safer. Bird airplane collisions can be very serious and even fatal. Based on all the comments you're hearing tonight, I think it is imperative and incumbent upon the DNR to incorporate many of the citizen suggestions into the updating of the Powell Marsh Management Plan. The citizens of Wisconsin own this property. The staff of the DNR are our employees. They do not have the right to ignore us and go their own way. You are hearing from people of Dead Pike Lake who have devoted an extraordinary amount of time and effort over the past 15 years to trying to work with the DNR to solve problems and improve the environment of the marsh and the lake. Do not insult them and dismiss them any longer. They are the most important asset you have as you move forward, and I would encourage you to at least listen to what they have to say and even possibly consider setting up a working group to work with them. And if you want to do that and you need a facility, our facility here is available for that. Thank you.
As always.
I wanted to just make a comment on the presentation that was done over here, in which the aerial photograph had shown that there was no more pollution coming down the creek. Here's a picture that was taken in August of this year. This is the location, exactly where it was. There are little pockets that are not being affected by that flow, and this is what is accumulating within the marsh. You want the picture? So, what is being shown there is selectively shown with aerial photographs. There are periods in which the flock is extremely evident. Secondly, during the movement, can you hear me without this? I hope you can.
Yeah.
Okay. The movement that they're talking about is to dilute the flock, okay? To keep it moving. It stops moving when it hits the lake. And when it hits the lake and stops moving, that's when it is exposed to the atmosphere. And of course, we get the interchange with the oxygen, and it forms the iron floc. That then is deposited on our shoreline. I just wanted to make that comparison. Hopefully, at the end, we'll be able to show you an option in detail, which is a compromise.
Hopefully it can be part of these comments here. That's what we talked about.
And I should save my comment until that point.
You can make your comments now, but we're giving everybody 5 minutes, just to be fair.
I don't know which is more important, but anyway. I want to speak on wetland policy. The Natural Resources Board has been very specific in articulating its policy regarding the state's wetlands. I quote from NR 1.95, 4A, Administrative Code, "It is the policy of the Natural Resources Board that wetlands shall be preserved, protected, restored, and managed to maintain, enhance, or restore their basic values." Note the restoration is referred to twice in that sentence. Additionally, and I quote, "Department decisions which lead to alteration of or effects upon wetlands under its jurisdiction shall be based on the intent to preserve, protect, restore, and manage them for the maintenance and enhancement of their values." Those basic values have two major components. Filtration is one, and of course the modification of water extremes is the other, both of which have been sacrificed through the department's extensive alteration of this massive watershed, the Powell Marsh. And even though the marsh is 85% wetland by the department's own estimation, the department has identified it as a wildlife area, claiming its authorization is not subject to these wetland policies, but rather Section 23.092B3 of the Wisconsin statutes and Chapter NR 1.51 of the Administrative Code. No mention in those sources of the preservation of basic wetland functions. No directive to protect and enhance and restore. All those directives can be conveniently ignored. Even additional outdoor activities are identified as secondary to hunting and trapping. Certainly, for other activities, they're saying that they must not detract from the primary purpose of the property. So the question that I would raise is whether the Wildlife Division can disregard and refuse to comply with the Natural Resources Board's official established wetland policies while operating within a wetland. After all, we are addressing one of the largest drainage basins in the entire state. Ecologically, it is far more than a small, segmented hunting, trapping area. Is such blatant disregard logically or legally acceptable?
If you have time, could you mention the dilution solution? I forgot to talk about dilution solution.
How much time do I have? How many seconds?
30 seconds.
Okay, again, what we saw from the aerial photograph, we had indicated that what it represents is a dilution solution. If in fact you mix an additional water volume with the floc itself, certainly it will not be as visible from the air. But the fact is that when it gets into the stagnant water, not stagnant, but calm water of the lake, it's an altogether different story. And that's when we suffer from its ill effects. The concentration of the iron is still there.